Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mini Scroll, the daily internet culture podcast bringing you the biggest stories from social media, the creator economy, and the digital space every Monday through Thursday. I'm your host, Lauren Meisner, the founder of the youth digital media brand Centennial World. Welcome back to Mini Scroll, everyone. Today is officially my 1 year of no alcohol. So that is what's going on with me today. I think I might do a post on my social media to talk about what that experience has been like for me, what I've learned, all of that. I see that kind of content a lot and I really like watching it. So I might do something like that in the next couple of weeks. But yes, 1 year alcohol free. And I know you guys have been on this journey with me because when I decided to stop drinking alcohol last year, I talked about it on the podcast with Jordy. And I also that decision inspired her to go sober for a few months here and there over the past year. And I actually have quite a few friends who have done sober stints here and there as well, kind of not because I did it, but having a friend and watching a friend, I think, navigate life and social situations and big celebration events and things like that. Sober, I think, kind of just encourages you to realize that you can do it too. I definitely have those people in my life where I was like, you know what? If they're still living their life and having the best time and they're not doing it with alcohol, I can do that too. So I woke up this morning and I was driving to work listening to Charlie XCX's Brat, obviously extended version because I needed 365 and all of those songs. And I was like, this is just so funny that I'm listening to literally the party anthem album on my 1 year sober, just driving to work, having the best time. Anyways, let's just get into the stories for today. I just wanted to share that with you guys because I'm obviously proud of it. It feels like a year has gone by so fast. I actually can't believe it. And, the universe wanted me to be alcohol free for these last 6 months. That is for sure. And thankfully I was. Okay. So the first story that I wanted to talk about, I wanted to talk about all the discourse about Kylie Jenner breaking down over the hurtful comments about her face. I know that this happened last week. I think it was the most recent episode of The Kardashians and it aired a few days ago. But the discourse online has not stopped. So I wanted to share, I guess, my opinion on this, my 2 cents on this, and talk about what's happening. On the latest episode of The Kardashians, Kylie opened up to Kendall about how hard it is to deal with comments about her face. As we might remember, earlier this year, Kylie faced a huge amount of criticism when she wore very little makeup to Paris. I think it was Paris, Haute Couture Fashion Week. And people said she looked super old. They said that it looked like she had filler migrating in her cheeks and around her face. They basically just said her cheeks under her eyes and stuff looked really lumpy, and they were chalking that up to getting too much work done too early. So she said to Kendall, quote, "It's like a miracle that I still have confidence and I can look in the mirror and think that I'm pretty. I'm wearing too much makeup and it's like you're wearing too much makeup. Then I go and I don't wear a lot of makeup and someone catches me in a weird light." And then Kendall said, "We're dehumanized. They don't think that there's any rules with us." Whereas if you talked that same way that you do about us, about other women, people would come to their defense all day long. But for some reason with us, it's they don't think we have any feelings. Okay, so I think there's a few things going on here. The Kardashians and just women in the spotlight in general are absolutely picked apart, ridiculed, judged for their appearance. And I could not imagine what that would feel like to be at that level, at that scale. And I agree with Kendall when she says we're dehumanized. They are dehumanized, and people feel like the Kardashian women are fair game to talk anything and everything about. But they are dehumanized because they have to remain almost otherworldly to maintain their brand, their personal brands. The brand that they sell to us as consumers is being otherworldly hot, being super rich, having this crazy, luxurious aesthetic, this lifestyle. That's what they're selling their consumers. So if they don't maintain that kind of dehumanized element to them, then they risk us not purchasing their products. Their billion-dollar empire is quite literally built on the fact that they are living a lifestyle which includes how they look that 99.9% of the world could never achieve, but they're selling us services and products and businesses that tell us that if we just do these things, if we just buy Skims, if we just buy Kylie makeup, if we just buy Lemmy gummies, if we just buy Good American, if we just watch their show, if we just read Kris Jenner's book, then we too could be like them. We too could be otherworldly. However, I think with the Kardashians, what's frustrating for us as just fans, viewers, consumers, whether you love them or you hate them, they will never fully, I think, understand that. I think they won't acknowledge it because they don't fully understand it. I don't think that they realize how damaging they have been to the beauty standard, to the zeitgeist in general. It's not like as a family they're sitting down and saying like, okay, what insecurity can we give little girls today? And then we can sell them a product to tell them that this will get rid of that insecurity. Like, they're not doing that. So I think that's why it's also much more like subversive. So I think that's why they will never be fully conscious of the impact that they have. But that being said, I do think that there is also this kind of false narrative that I've seen a lot, especially around this particular clip, that the Kardashians seemed to like invent unrealistic beauty standards. And that's just simply untrue. I talked about this in one of my very first deep dives of the year about like the Gen Z looking old discourse. And I talked about how unrealistic beauty standards existed in magazines, media, tabloid culture for decades before the Kardashians came on the scene. But I think because the Kardashians came on the scene at the same time as social media started to explode, obviously, the impact that anyone who is pushing an unrealistic beauty standard has now is so much greater than before social media. And therefore, I think there's a lot of like not miscommunication, not necessarily like misinformation or disinformation, but just like a misunderstanding, I suppose, about what life was like or culture was like before social media and before the Kardashians. Because one of the anecdotes that I have shared on this podcast, I think more than once, is that when I was like 9, 10, 11, I mean, I've always been so into media, celebrities, beauty, all of that. I would buy like every tween magazine. I would buy People magazine, like everything. And, you know, when I was like 10 and 11 was when Angelina Jolie, her face was like the blueprint. It was like the beauty standard. Her face is quite literally perfect. That is the face that the Kardashians are trying to achieve, right? Like, that is the face. That was the face that was like really pedestaled and pushed to us. So when I was like 10 and 11, I wanted to get lip filler. This was before Kylie Jenner was maybe even born. I mean, she was probably like 5. I'm 32 now. So this was well before she had lip filler. There's like this weird narrative that Kylie Jenner invented lip filler, that the Kardashians invented unrealistic beauty standards. And this is not me discrediting or discounting the harm that they have done. But I think it is also just the discourse around this particular clip, like this scene from the Kardashians has been like, well, Kylie did this to herself. You know, she was doing lip fillers and lying about it, and all the little girls now want lip fillers. I wanted lip fillers when I was 11 because of what tabloid culture was telling me, because of what magazines were telling me. Two things can be true. The Kardashians can be so harmful and damaging to the beauty standard and young girls' self-esteem, while also being the victims of it themselves, because they did not invent this. This is not something that they personally created. And they get a lot of, I think, in my opinion, unnecessary or misdirected flack for like people just putting all of the blame on them. It's easy for us to just look at the Kardashians and say all of the problems with like the beauty standard and women's self-esteem, all of that can be placed on them. That is just not the case. But, you know, I think we also need to look at not just them being the victims of the industry and of, you know, unrealistic beauty standards themselves, but also the victims of Kris Jenner. Like Kylie and Kendall especially, they were thrust or forced into this from being children. Kylie had the media scrutinizing her face from the time she was like 7 or whenever she first went on the Kardashians. She was like a child and people were making fun of her lips. I think it's fine not to have sympathy for them. I get it. We don't need to have sympathy for billionaires. And I think these scenes that we have seen where Kylie's breaking down like this, and there was another scene where Kylie was talking about like how they need to talk about the unrealistic beauty standards that they set. This is them trying, in my opinion, to be really relatable. I think we're seeing that celebrities are becoming much more authentic, sharing much more of themselves, with younger audiences if they want to maintain relevancy. And I think this is the Kardashians' way of doing that, of like sharing these very staged scenes of trying to almost humanize them for us so that we stay on board with them. Anyways, the next story that I have for you guys. So Taylor Swift has seemingly responded to the dig made by Foo Fighters leading man. So over the weekend, Foo Fighters lead Dave Grohl made a dig at Taylor at their show, saying that she doesn't play live for her entire concerts. He said, quote, "So we like to call our tour the Errors Tour." Sorry, errors, you know, like a mistake. I feel like that's going to get confusing. We've had more than a few errors and more than a few fucking eras as well. Just a couple. That's because we actually play live. What? Okay. Rude. So last night, Taylor at the Eras tour defended her band against this quip. She said, "What you just did is an unforgettable moment in not just my life, but every single one of our crew. The band that's going to be playing live for you for 3.5 hours tonight. They deserve this so much, and so does every one of my fellow performers, and you just gave that to us so generously. We'll never forget." It was very casual, but her saying, "We're going to play live to you for 3.5 hours. My band will play live." You know, I do think it was her coming to their defense. And I just want to say, it is obviously strategic, Taylor not singing for the entire 3.5 hours of every Eras tour. Think about how many concerts she is doing. She is doing a 3.5 hour concert back to back to back to back for months on end. And she's been doing this now for almost 2 years. So obviously she is going to need to be strategic about when she lip syncs in her concert and when she can actually sing. I don't think that's some controversial thing. I think it's very well understood and a respected decision. It's a necessary decision. So that's also me just coming to another billionaire's defense on this day. Okay, wait, before I get into my final story, the girls keep telling me, Alex and Annabelle, who work for me, keep telling me I need to cover the Paris poo saga that's going on TikTok. And I don't have any notes on it, but I will give you guys a really high level recap. I'm not on this side of TikTok, but essentially what is happening. So Paris is hosting the Olympics. They built an Olympics-sized swimming pool for the water sports. And the swimming pool that they built was just a little bit too small, apparently. So they spent all this money building it. It was just not quite Olympic size. I don't even know how you fuck that up, but they can't use it. So they're like, that's okay. We'll do swimming and whatever else in the Seine, which is the river that goes through Paris. That river, it's been illegal to swim in that river for a very long time because it is so contaminated. It is filled with sewage and garbage, and it's so disgusting. So they've spent billions of dollars allegedly to clean out the Seine. They cleaned it out and it's still brown. So then there was this website that went up where people that live in Paris were saying we're gonna shit in the Seine to basically say fuck you to the government for spending all of this taxpayer money on building the swimming pool that wasn't quite right, and then now cleaning out this river that's not even fucking clean. We're gonna have all these, of course they don't want their city overrun with tourists anyways during the Olympics. It was this protest, this shitting protest. So because of this whole drama, then the prime minister was like, I'll swim in the Seine to, prove that it's clean enough. And then, of course, everybody just shit in it, I guess. So now they're like, never mind. We're actually going to postpone me swimming in the Seine. So now everybody's making jokes on TikTok about how the actual Olympic medal is who survives after swimming in the Seine, because they're like, this is so contaminated. Everyone is going to get sick. So that's what's going on Paris PoopTok. Annabelle and Alex, now you can stop asking me to cover it, okay? Anyways, it's pretty wild and it's actually kind of funny, but also disgusting and sad. Okay, and the last story that I have for you guys is that MTV News has archived all of its website content. So last year, MTV News shuttered amid financial struggles. Surprise, surprise. Every publisher has been going through shit like that. But today, they have officially archived over 2 decades worth of content. So that is music history, pop culture history, Think about all the bylines that these journalists now have just lost. It's like, years possibly for some of them of their work that they can no longer access. I'll read some tweets. Patrick Hoskin, the former music editor at MTV News, wrote, "So MTVnews.com no longer exists. 8 years of my life are gone without a trace. All because it didn't fit some executives' bottom lines. Infuriating is too small a word." Crystal Bell, who is now culture editor at Mashable and did work as entertainment director of MTV News, wrote, "Sickening to see the entire MTV News archive wiped from the internet. Decades of music history gone, including some very early K-pop stories." And then Rolling Stone senior writer Brian Hyatt wrote, "This is disgraceful. They've completely wiped the MTV News archive. Decades of pop culture history research material gone, and why?" And I wanted to cover this because this is an ongoing discussion I am seeing online where people are talking about how the internet, like quite literally, is just not forever. There was such a narrative, when we were younger, our parents would be like, don't post anything that you wouldn't want to be kind of attached to you for the rest of your life online. And this is one of so many instances where full websites, social media platforms. I talked about this in my MySpace episode, but like MySpace is wiped clean. You can't find anything from MySpace from, I think, before 2016, something like that. Because there's too much content out there, there's no way to like properly archive it. And we are at risk of losing like massive amounts of information in this whole like generation, like in this kind of boom that we're experiencing in the last probably 10, 15 years. There are just decades wiped off the internet constantly. So that's very sad and scary on one hand. On the other hand, it's good news for all of our drunk Facebook pics from when we were like 15. No, but for real, it's actually really, really wild. I know there are, of course, lots of journalists talking about this kind of thing, but it's a very interesting topic. Let me know, actually, if you guys want me to do a deep dive into this. I think that's a very interesting side of the internet right now that maybe is not as commonly understood or known if you're not like really deep in the weeds. But nothing is forever on the internet is what we are learning. Anyways, guys, that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening to Mini Scroll. I love you guys so much. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. It helps me so much. It helps me grow. It helps me keep going. I will have Let the Girls Game tomorrow and then be back for Mini Scroll on Thursday. Okay, bye.